On January 1st, 2026, the Indian government initiates a synchronized wealth transfer affecting over 1 crore families, specifically 50 lakh employees and 60 lakh pensioners. This payout is driven by a legally mandated bureaucratic engine known as the Central Pay Commission. Its specific function is to systematically restructure government wages, ensuring that the purchasing power of public servants keeps pace with national inflation and the rising cost of living. By locking in these periodic upgrades, the state actively protects its middle-class workforce from the compounding effects of inflation. The Ministry of Finance officially constituted the 8th Pay Commission in November 2025. This committee now has a strict 18-month window to finalize and submit its comprehensive salary report. To lead this process, the government appointed former Supreme Court Justice Ranjana Prakash Desai as chairperson. Placing a former judicial authority at the helm is a calculated move. The commission must mediate intense negotiations between labor unions demanding higher wages and a government constrained by strict fiscal limits. The commission operates on a rigid 10-year cycle. Since the first iteration in 1946, the government has consistently used this decadal rhythm to overhaul compensation, leading up to the 7th Commission in 2016. Over recent cycles, the absolute floor for government wages has expanded rapidly. The minimum basic pay under the 6th Commission was set at 7,000 rupees. 10 years later, the 7th Commission pushed that baseline up to 18,000 rupees. Government compensation relies on these scheduled long-term leaps, allowing employees to capture compound economic growth rather than relying on incremental yearly adjustments. The exact scale of this decadal leap comes down to a single mathematical multiplier called the Fitment Factor. This formula shows how the entire salary hike is calculated. The equation starts by locking in an employee's current basic pay at the very end of the previous 10-year cycle. Next, we apply the multiplier. For context, the 7th Pay Commission used a baseline factor of 2.57, which significantly lifted the final sum. When this new equation takes effect, a mechanical shift occurs. The accumulated dearness allowance, which currently hovers near 50%, is absorbed entirely into the newly expanded basic pay, resetting the DA counter to 0. Because core allowances for housing and travel are calculated as percentages of basic pay, expanding the base number triggers an automatic cascade of increases across all peripheral perks. The fitment factor establishes the new baseline for a government employee's net worth for the next 10 years. This chart visualizes the debate over the 8th Pay Commission's fitment factor, mapping out 3 projection models: conservative, realistic, and the union target. The middle column represents the realistic expectation, a 2.85 multiplier. An employee at an 18,000 rupee base salary would see their pay recalculate to roughly 51,300 rupees. At the upper limit, labor unions request a 3.83 multiplier. They cite updated food and nutrition norms from the Medical Research Council to justify a minimum baseline of 69,000 rupees. While the Ministry of Finance will negotiate the final multiplier, the underlying math guarantees that the vast majority of government employees will capture a total net salary increase between 30 and 40%. By law, the effective start date for these new salaries is January 1, 2026. However, the lengthy 18-month reporting and approval process guarantees that actual payouts will be delayed by a year or more. Employees do not lose compensation during this administrative delay. The government tracks the accumulated difference and eventually releases it as a single lump sum payment known as arrears. The national government currently allocates nearly 5.5 lakh crore rupees annually for salaries and pensions. Expanding that baseline will inject a surge of liquidity directly into the Indian consumer market. This routine administrative update functions as a calculated macroeconomic stimulus, driving nationwide consumer demand while securing the financial bandwidth of the state's workforce.